Hello, everyone. Today is September 18th, 2023. My guest today is Vadzim Belski. Vadzim is a software architect. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Vadzim.
Nice to meet you all. Glad,
Um,
glad, glad, to, glad to introduce myself. So I started my career as a software developer 15 years ago. Now I'm acting at ScienceSoft. My position is a project coordinator, and I act take several roles in my company. I am managing people, and as well I'm architecting projects. And in many cases, I work advisory for our clients whenever we need to go and review any ideas, topics, and as well, I have a lawyer education also on top of the technology. So I have some experience in that field also, and can consult our clients basically on these matters.
okay, that makes sense. And earlier you said you have a managerial role as well. And would that role be where you're directing people? Are those technical people?
In many cases, yes, this is technical people. However, when we're speaking about like communication with our clients and consulting of our clients, this is non-technical people. This could be like individuals, entrepreneurs, or even huge organization who would like to receive technical consulting, and what that's what I'm doing basically.
Okay. And you mentioned you've been a software engineer for 15 years. And how did you begin software engineering?
Oh, this is like a story from the childhood. Oh, I was from those period when there were almost no internet. There was a feeder net, like dial-up connections and all those stuff. And I was very young at that moment. I'm just entering, I would say, high school, something like this. And I always was interested in computers and the networking, and uh, the main thing that was interested to me is socializing through the computer networking. So it's like chats and all those new stuff that was never been before, and this allows me just sitting at home, have lots of friends, and in reality, then you start meeting those friends in real life. You and most of those friends I also was computer guys, and that way I managed to learn some programming languages. I started from PHP, and when I came to the university I already have several offers, and I started my first job was an administrator of library. In a library there was a computer center which actually provide free access to internet. You can came in, and I was in charge of administrating this. This was my first job, and at that point, acting as administrator, I already tried to implement something. Uh, I was very focused in details with Linux systems, and as being as administrator, I worked with them daily. And one of my friends came and said that you need a software which will basically grab details from mobile operator about location of a certain device. And I'm not sure why he needs that, but we created a script. I created for him a script that logged into mobile operator website, grabbed this data, and saved in a local database, and just it monitors the movement of those devices. So this was my very first project I have ever did, and I would say this was the start of my career. Then I started to acquire like projects, um, commercial projects. This was a small website around based on the WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, something like this. In reality, this was not so very interesting, and I was focusing mainly on those projects because I need to get some experience and details. However, it's still in my past road, and the very interesting. I would say that there was one event in my life that changed the situation. Basically, I came to work at ScienceSoft 15 years ago. I'm the guy who worked in a company quite for a long time, and I get to one interesting project that's called Viber. Viber is a messenger like WhatsApp, but it's mostly widespread in Europe and Eastern Europe and even Japan. Those messenger when we started at Science of those messenger, we are just was focused to copy Skype. So the idea was to create something that is very similar, that provides such an experience. And at that point, I really have a very strong team, very strong people around me, who did very good mentorship around the technology, how to build startups, how to manage everything. I was taking a small piece of those software, and I would say this was a very great experience. Specifically, when you are launching something that starts growing very fast, and within the several months, Viber acquired um, 60,000 of users. Within the year, they become 60 millions. So this is very fast growing was very fast growing project, and there was very interesting challenges with that. So it started with 10 servers, and within the year it was already 100 servers, and their approaches are changing. The demand is changing. The new challenges appear, how to scale the data, and so on and so forth. Also, the business is having an idea how to monetize this. So you implement a new features, even I would say something that have never been implemented by anyone before. This was very interesting, and at ScienceSoft we worked on those projects until it was sold to Rakuten, and there is a very well known to Japan corporation Rakuten.
Okay.
Yes, and this was 1 billion deal. So after that, there was quite a big demand at ScienceSoft about the messaging apps, and I would say I took part in a dozen of them, and that it was, I think, so I started on Viber on 2013. On 2015, we already started new messengers, and at that point there was like everyone is focusing on end-to-end encryption, and everyone was speaking about WebRTC. So it's like new technologies to make online calls. At Viber, they implemented WebRTC on their own because no one yet was. There was like small pieces of it, but there is no at that period of time implementation of such a protocol. This protocol allows a real-time communication over the internet, WebRTC. So this protocol is needed to execute signaling. Whenever you call someone, like we are talking right now, there's very many things happening behind that, like a signal exchange around events that happen on my side and on your side. Both our clients execute a handshake and then send together telemetry about our operation. Which codecs do we use? Which connections do we use? Are we under the net, NAT, or we are not, are we under the mobile operator? And this depends much. It influence on signal latency, it influence the quality, and influence at least whether you will be capable to decode my stream, which is encoded by the codec. At that period of time, this was a significant challenge because there was no standards at all. So at Viber, they implemented on their own, and they have their own implementation of those protocol. Later, WebRTC appears, and it standardized all the things. It have implemented support on the browser level, and right now it's everywhere. So it was a very interesting journey. So right now, to build a web application that allows you to make a video calling is several weeks of work, not more. At that period of time, this was a significant amount of work because you need to implement even all the pieces of such software. Then after the Messenger hype, I have a chance to work on one of the biggest e-commerce, fashion e-commerce projects. This was in Dallas, Texas, and unfortunately, cannot disclose the clients' names, but this was a fantastic experience. Whenever you work like with such a famous brands, Dolce Gabbana, Gucci, Versace, and you build a store which sells this very popular and famous brand, and this is a store is very expensive store. Couple of goods. So I would say it's very interesting, and it's very interesting in terms of how people could approach those and how they can afford it. Some items, some very expensive items. It looks for me wide, but still they are very popular, and there is a buyer for that. And the very challenging part of such an e-commerce project was personalization. So such individuals who buy such an expensive goods, they need a very personalized attitude. And the challenge was to implement it online. The same type of behavior when you came like to the store. Very quality catalog, very detailed pictures, detailed photos, very like in terms of the data, personalization is also the data, what we know about our clients, how we understand their basically experience and preferences. So we record all those things and implement it for our clients, which help them to build such a powerful online experience for their clients. And after that, I started with blockchain, basically, and this was very hype, 2018. Not at the very beginning, but I know many people come into blockchain even right now, and I would say adoption is coming with a big steps, and it goes without saying that basically. Blockchain right now is almost everywhere. We will see very interesting things in future whenever even your own local banks will start basically adopt blockchain and offering some financial services using blockchain technologies. So we, at that point at ScienceSoft, we approached several different projects within the blockchain. When I started, it came in. One of them was, I would say, a project for Middle East government. I cannot disclose the exact also client names, but they created like digital ID of the citizens based on the blockchain, and our team was a part of those projects who built custom consensus algorithms to protect the data, protect digital identities, and execute the decentralization of data for those country. Yeah.
You wrote an article called Proof of Reserve. And that's a
Yeah,
consensus algorithm. And you mentioned proof of reserve needs an audit mechanism, correct?
correct. Yes, proof of the reserve. It's mainly about assets tokenization process. So it could be like different ways to proof of reserve. And when we are speaking about the banks, banks are a very good entity who can really prove someone's reserve. And whenever the bank will provide like open banking, they will provide data that they could find, uh, and based on those data, other developers can create their solutions, and they can use those data as a proof of the reserve. Uh, then, whenever the bank is very famous, whenever it has a reputation, anyone will believe to those data provided, and this could be used to implement very interesting applications. And just imagine the process of asset tokenization. I'm thinking that in future the process will be managed mainly by your local banks, or which will act in two ways: um, uh, as an escrow, who can basically digitalize your physical asset. So there will be no need for complex procedures within the expected regulations and the framework. You can came to bank and, for example, try to receive an investment for your, for example, um, apartments. I don't know, or business, or business real estate, whatever you need. So this gives like a possibilities for you to get an investment from all over the globe, and within the tokenization process. This makes things easier whenever there will be a regulated framework available, and they are working in this field, in this domain. You know, each day Gary Gensler is talking about investment protection. Gary Gensler is a guy from the SEC. Everyone knows Gary Gensler because of his lectures in MIT about the blockchain. He's a very famous guy, and now he is a chief of uh, United States security regulator, securities regulator, and they are right now. If you follow his Twitter, they are right now discussing in a discussing how basically. What should be regulated, and I am also a fan of regulation, just because to protect anyone investments, to reduce the scam around the blockchain. You know, there are lots of scam in this domain. Um, there are lots of things that like try to play. There are lots of like individuals who act who are bad actors, you know, and to avoid this sphere should be regulated, because there are also good actors on the blockchain, and uh, and many good companies act on the blockchain. And DeFi is basically a wonderful, fantastic thing that allows you to exchange your digital assets autonomously on chain without any intermediate. And those services, we see an evolution of them. Um, just imagine the new project called WorldCoin from the guy who
Sam
OpenAI.
Altman.
Yeah, they scan with a bull eye your biometry, and they create a profile on chain of your of individual using those profile. Just imagine it's like global passport. It could act as a global passport. You will see there will be banking software that based on those global passports will allow you to get loans, or it will allow you to get access to some financial services, whatever. So they are approaching and adopting those good things. I think this this will help better for for anyone around the globe, and in general globalization. Uh,
I think so too. And I think, people get confused with how blockchain will work and how it will be implemented. And I think, you highlight a big thing. It's going to change banking and it's going to change financial sectors. But I think it's a good thing for governments, and I think it makes the government's job a lot easier in regulating the financial market, than, when it's centralized and they have to rely a lot more on the banks.
they are still like blockchain is like an open book. um, Even within the decentralization, many of the protocols and many startups, they are still have a pieces of centralization, and still those idea of decentralization, it's more like, to my mind, it's more it's more about the marketing part, because you still act on some jurisdiction, on some territory, and you have to comply to those regulations. Even many people say that blockchain um, is capable uh, uh, to pass censorship. I would say it's a matter of when the all the network will be blocked. So
All the
uh,
what?
when the whole network, blockchain network, will be blocked by the censor. So it's not. I would say in some pieces it would help, but still in many cases you should comply. For example, China. Whenever you act on China, there is a strict regulations. Even you came with a very well-known network like Ethereum and start your projects on those network in China, there are still like they can ban you. First of all, the requirement that people uh, people social data and all the private Chinese data should be stored in China. So this is one thing you have to comply, and you have to come to government and say that, hey, I'm such an entrepreneur and here's my website. I'm acting in those fields. Otherwise, they will not allow you to create a domain name. If you will not be able to create a domain name, basically in China, no one will ever know about your services, because their type of internet is quite different from a regular one, and you have to go to their super app, WeChat, create an app there, and so whenever you would like to come to specific market, you still have to follow the social and the regulation of those markets. So uh, even it is a decentralized, you still
Yes,
have pieces.
I agree, and I maybe said that wrong because I think it's still more decentralized, but it's still a centralized process, and a lot of use cases. I actually, I don't know what you think about private blockchain versus public blockchain, but I see a lot of use cases for private blockchain, and those are centralized. Those are not a decentralized system.
Yes. Yes. To my experience with a private blockchain, first of all, in the banking sphere, yes, correct, I agree. Even the systems that can interchange data between different banks or different partner banks, it could be based on the blockchain, and many of the big banks already adopted that and created such a system. Specifically, when we're speaking about international money transfer system, this is a very well-known use case. But again, it also could be in a public blockchain. So private blockchain have a very enterprise-based use cases only. So and it makes sense to use it in also in a very limited use cases within the enterprises, because you have to uh, think twice, basically whether blockchain is the right tool for you before you start any project, because many people came to the fact that they would like to use blockchain because of the hype, not because of the real use case implementation. Because and they try to adopt their use case uh, for this hype. So it's not a correct way to do it. So first of all, you should think about of your case about decentralization, whether you really need a decentralization and what problem it solves in your individual case. Uh, if it is a case for you, then you could think about blockchain as a new way of sharing data and API. So many it's like API protected with cryptography and bulletproof from um, from modification of its data. So think about it like new way to get access to the data through the public private keys, through the encryption, and through the standardized protocols. The same like in typical, for example, APIs, REST APIs or GraphQL. And another thing is like public blockchains you mentioned. Public blockchain are also powerful, and there are um, companies building private blockchain based on the private one. This is a side chains, different opportunities for the side chains projects. You can create basically your individual chain, which will be protected by encryption. No one can decrypt what's going on, but still it will be secured by public chain. So what does it mean secured? It means that it will be decentralized the same way as it's the layer one network, like Ethereum or Bitcoin. And depending on the use case, you still would like to be on the hype of blockchain, and in such way you could protect some of your private data, but some of the data you would like to be public. For example, whenever you act in an investment field, you would like to show people that there is something happening behind your business. There are transactions that are happening, but without disclosing the details of those transactions. This is also possible, and many of the clients specifically would like to do so, just to show an opportunity that blockchain to give like access to the data, which is impersonalized and doesn't contain financial secrets. So that could be shared to all others. That anyone can review it and anyone can get access it, and but it's limited. And this gives a very good like also marketing opportunities. Whenever you record those data on chain, you gives as we mentioned proof of reserve. You gives anyone a commitment that of what's happening in your organization. What else would like to say? So speaking about the projects, interesting projects on the blockchain itself that I would like you to pay attention. I already mentioned the WorldCoin. This is a very great project. Another one I would try to focus your attention is the evolution of layer 2 scaling solutions. There is a very interesting fact. If you do not know what is layer 2, layer 2 is the solution to scale Ethereum or Bitcoin. For example, Bitcoin have a limited transactions per second that it can process. This is limitation came from the fact that the block size is limited, and you can put a limited amount of data. I think it's around 1 megabyte in Bitcoin right now. And the same type with Ethereum. Right now, after the merge, it became much more complex, but still, it have a limitation in transaction per second. Some of the use cases, specifically with IoT, whenever there are lots of or thousands or millions of devices deployed globally, and they send their telemetry, and in many cases, blockchain is a very good storage for such telemetry, and you need lots of transactions.
What makes it a good storage?
It's immutability.
Okay.
It's immutability, and it's access to the data. So it's quite expensive to record it, but it's free to read it. So whenever you put it on chain, you can easily just access from over the world to those data, and I would say it will be kept forever almost. So in such a perspective, the blockchain as a storage looks a perfect solution. As well as you can also like regulate based on the smart contracts, regulate access and access to those data.
And one thing, are you this architecture, would you say it uses, I've heard the term Oracle, which I think of as a reaching out the blockchain, reaching out to a third party repository, which is also a form of
Yeah.
centralization. But I'm not sure because I've heard people say storing data on chain is not great, but I've also seen Vitalik post something that say storing data on
It's yeah. It's a matter. A very good question. It's a matter of price. So by its nature, blockchain is expensive. So the more data you store, the more you have to pay basically to record this data. And you can imagine whenever we're speaking about you can't easily record a file on chain basically because it's quite a big portion of information and it will cost you very much. So whenever you will try to record it on a smart contract, will be quite a huge price, quite a huge fee. And to avoid this, everyone is right now focusing there. It's like with the small computers, whenever you would like to put as much information as possible in a very limited amount of space. So you try to invent a new coding things like you instead of operating with a big blocks, you're operating with the bits, and you try to encode in a single portion of information as much sense as possible. And and this brings like an efficiency. So you have to create some sort of your protocol, how you basically structure your messages that is stored on chain. And there are many interesting standards around that. Specifically, I found a very interesting approach came from Polkadot project. They have even created a standalone protocol of data mapping where you can just create a like, data class which express some sort of data structure. However, on chain is recorded as set of bytes, and those set of bytes are parsed back and fill in data class, and it reconstructed. So you that it's like encoding decoding game. And this also a problem of blockchain basically when because of those high price limited data and the big amounts of data that blockchain operates, the adoption on mobile phones are very slow. So basically you cannot spin up a Bitcoin node on mobile. It's almost impossible because you have to download lots of previous blocks to set up integrity on your database. There are like some solutions to overcome this, but in practice they are also not very useful. There is also like a subject of whether you sacrifice security or privacy or something else. So and this is a big problem with blockchain adoption. And yeah, then whenever but imagine whenever you can code your information in such small pieces, basically you are safe to store it on chain. This is not will be a big price. For example, if you take a look at Uniswap DeFi smart contracts, they have a strict protocol of how they encode decode the pairs that they sell online. So they have like to work with those small pieces of data encoded into those bits of and you should understand how it works. You should follow the rules. So no one working on chain like with a bigger amounts of data. This is the problem right now. I think that in future we will see changes in this direction. First of all, there is quite a long project called Filecoin, and with those projects. You can store huge amounts of data, but still you have to pay to pin it. I think there will be the work will be in two directions on blockchain: for scalability and for data storage increasing. So with the law, so each year the price of computer storage decreases, so it will influence on blockchain definitely, and the storage of data on blockchain will decreases. And as much networks will appear, as much Sphere will have lots of concurrent offerings, and the price will always go down. So you right now can analyze several blockchain and their transaction fee, how much it costs, for example, to store the data, to let's example, to execute a peer-to-peer transfer. So based on my analysis, there is a very low offering, almost like very you pay almost nothing, and there are quite a blockchains that requires to pay quite a lot. For example, Ethereum, an average transaction fee already around it was $70 or even $100 last year before the merge. Right now it's more or less it's around $7-10. But still, it's quite a big whenever you will speak about huge amounts of data. So for a single transaction, which is limited by the block size, you start to pay $10. It's quite a big amount. And comparing to other networks, for example, layer 2 solution, Arbitrum and Polygon. Arbitrum, they act in a space of I would say 0.05 or even more, and Polygon 0.01, which for a single transaction, which looks for me quite could be used already, yes, in your project, because it's not so expensive. However, you are still sacrificing with several things in such scenarios, relying on those networks. First of all, the transaction per seconds are not limited. Those networks, because of offering such a low price, they in future could be a subject of degradation of performance on such networks due to the spikes and new project appears on them. Also, as far as it's there could be other concerns around this matter about security. So don't think twice before choosing a specific blockchain network in terms of its operation model, how it's operate, because depending on how blockchain operates, it have different rules of data integrity. It's in common, mainly blockchain. Everyone consider blockchain as a safe place. However, there could be a situation whenever the data could be modified, and you can lose those data. So you should think twice which type of the projects you can put on chain, specifically on specific chain. And there is the good news. You can ask me at any time.
What good news?
Um, good news for everyone.
What's that?
I said that you can ask me at any time that which network to choose for your project.
Oh, which network do you think?
Yes, to choose for your specific use case.
Oh, okay.
So depending on the security model, depending on data integrity model, depending on decentralization of the project and many other factors. Even in some cases, it's better to think about launching your own network
Wow.
whenever it's feasible.
What do you think would make someone able to launch their own network?
There are many cases. First of all, launching your own network is a very perfect way for investments and monetization. So it's like a very perfect SaaS model where your token You actually, whenever you own a network, you issue a native token. And native token means that it acts as utility inside your network, and it gives popularity for those tokens. And whenever your network can offer something that no one else can offer, this also gives a very big demand. So and and those type of combination gives very big opportunities. Um, First of all, for scaling, and it gives a better control on what's going on. And you can see that almost each month I hear about appearing a new network. And this is one of the interesting problems in blockchain. There are so many networks. They are regional, they are global, they are different kind and different nature. But the people start thinking about how to transfer the value from one network to another network. So, for example, if I operate globally and would like to go in China, maybe in China they have some their own network, which is very popular, and they have like a different things there, how I can transfer from Ethereum my asset to those network. And right now, many startups are working around the bridges, which is allow you basically to transfer value from one network to another network. And this is also a part of adoption. And I already mentioned a project Polkadot, which the main aim uh, to combine all those network into the single super chain.
Wow.
Um,
And so when I think of network to network connections, do like companies like Coinbase, um, do they have any role to play in that?
Coinbase is the custodial exchange. Basically, they act mainly on your behalf, and yes, they have an integration with non-custodial wallets, but everything is there under their control. But comparing to the Polkadot, basically Polkadot is a Web3 organization. They have lots of initiative to create bridges around blockchain ecosystem, and the main purpose is to create a framework, and they created it. Basically, you can already start using it, to which will be able to provide all the instruments to connect network between each other, to create an interoperability standards around blockchain. And many and it's adopting very fast right now. um, and they are not alone. There is also a Cosmos framework, which is a part of this idea, but a little bit, they act a little bit differently, and some others.
And
uh,
is the
mhm.
networks that the bridges are able to connect, are they limited to the top networks, or is it really a protocol any network could adopt?
Basically, almost any network could adopt. But the only limitation is the how you can implement smart contracts on a new network. Whether it's whether virtual machine allows at least to execute smart contract. If it is, you can adopt almost to any network. There could be like it standardized the way of how the network should exchange the messages, and at which state you should lock the values, and at which state you should burn or mint the assets on different networks. So it gives you like a foundation, it gives you a tools, and it gives you like intermediate broker who can act as exchange of data between networks. So this was the idea, at least as I understand it. And uh, as I mentioned, they are not alone. There are different projects that act in this sphere, and they have quite a big success. Um, and they basically introduced the new type of blockchains like sidechains. It's a little bit different
Is
block.
what's
It's
a side chain?
the sidechain is like a parallel network.
Is it
Uh,
like a layer two or no?
it's like, but not, but not the same. So layer two basically works on two protocols. It's optimistic rollups or zero knowledge proofs. And side chains, they are completely individual chains, but they have a bridges to work inside. And imagine the ecosystem of Cosmos or Polkadot. They provide you an infrastructure to create of lots of side chains, and out of the box they give you a bridges, a way to transfer assets from your chain to other chains. And and they have a concept like and the idea is also that you can create a network without even decentralization. They can share for you as a service their decentralization, and you just pay them, or your users pay them the commission. This is an interesting model. Just imagine how like you start selling your infrastructure like in the decentralized manner. You gives other projects, other companies their decentralized infrastructure as a service to run their own blockchain on top of it. This is like uh, a modern way to sell infrastructure.
And
Just
so
imagine it.
people would be signed members of this one infrastructure, and they would have access to each other's chains, and they're really
Yes,
paying to be members of that whole chain.
yes. That's
Okay.
correct. That's correct. And so that's the main idea. They try to combine everything in a single chain and single under the single umbrella. This will come years, but interesting things that they have lots of um, I would say grants. So whenever you're a developer or you act in those sphere and you have an idea how to improve this, even from the very simple one, just create an SDK for the new language. They are giving grants,
Wow.
and for that I remember a very funny thing that they gave $20,000 for a small company who created like a PHP SDK to interact with them. So uh, interesting, and that way they also invented those idea about Web3 and start promoting it. And
Is that Polkadot or who's they?
Polkadot, yes.
Okay.
And they have like they call themselves Web3. The company that stand behind the Polkadot is Web3 Foundation.
Oh, wow.
And just think about this way, like in my mind the blockchains, the evolution will came to the fact that the banking networks, banking blockchains will have a connection with the global blockchains, and there will be possible to transfer the value from those global blockchains to national level, to the banking level, and manage assets on those level without
Okay.
losing its values. So this gives like very fantastic opportunities. I'm not
And
a financial guy, but I'm pretty sure this gives for different companies global wide investments opportunities and access direct to consumers.
okay. And you you well, you've written a lot of blogs on finances recently, so you've had to learn about finances and economics, correct?
Uh, it depends. There could be someone in your team who are very familiar with that. Being a developer, it's you just need to understand the landscape. So and to understand some known terms in the terms from this domain. You just need to learn them, understand what are they about, at least understand whenever they are speaking about something. I mean, the guys, financial guys, what they're speaking about. But frankly, whenever you are implementing something complex, definitely you should go to understand everything in those domains. If we are speaking about finance, yes.
Okay.
Because
And
how you will implement a protocol without knowing how it should work?
okay. And you've already mentioned blockchain, you've mentioned several non-financial use cases, and you still see where are the limitations and complexities with non-financial use cases?
The amount of data, the amount of data is the main challenge. The transactions per second, the capability to process those data fast, also another challenge, and adoption of mobile devices. This is the main challenges. Uh, you cannot. It's very important with the decentralization that the clients can work in decentralized manner. Unfortunately, due to the nature of blockchain, many of the mobile devices acts um, as the thin clients, so they basically do not contain uh, the whole information from the blockchain, and they rely on to intermediate, and those intermediate can definitely compromise their privacy, security, and many other aspects. So this is the main limitation right now of adoption, but it will change. The data speeds are changing, the technologies are changing, and the cryptography changing. So it's a matter of
Wow,
time.
that's exciting. And you mentioned that this, Web3 was a hype word, and some people put their names or their products on blockchain just because it was, very hot, and it was a good way to maybe get funding or get marketing. Um, AI is another technology, artificial intelligence, learning large language models. That is, it's interesting. It's kind of in both of them, Web3, blockchain, and then um, AI. And with blockchain, people, highly associate value of blockchain to, where's Bitcoin at? Like when Bitcoin was at 65 plus, blockchain was huge. And now that it's below 30, people are just completely off of it. And they even question its value. A lot of people who don't understand and say, no way. So what do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Yes, that's true. That's true. As any adoption, the very complex thing around blockchain adoption is its complexity, and I see that no, the one who don't understand it basically do not see a value to use it, and there are lots of things to be done in terms of education and popularization. And comparing to AI is very demanding right now. But one of our clients just came to me and said, "Hey, let's developers to use AI to write code faster." And we have a joke internally. In some cases, AI will help change the education. I think it does not still yet there to replace the human, but it changed the way the human educate themselves. Will give them opportunity to get much more information, um, very specific information, very specific domain, much faster, rather than coming all those big journey from school to university. And this will change the landscape basically, and this will introduce uh, new professions and new ways of using AI. That's what I'm thinking about. However, just imagine on opposite, whenever AI will translate financial contract from one language to another language, will you sign it? No, you will not sign it because those translation are not still yet perfect. So whenever we speak about the language of law, it's not yet there. You cannot just translate one contract to another contract, and it will not be the same. It will be different, even meaning.
What do you mean?
I mean that translation does not transfer the terms or in a specific. It's like it could make it similar, but not the same.
Okay.
So that means that AI powered translation. If you translate a contract, just a real life contract with some organization entity that you sign, uh, and you translate it to another language, and you have to sign it. You will understand that it is a different statements. They have a different meaning, and whenever you came to court, it will not work for you.
Versus a
So
blockchain.
versus the blockchain, yes,
And this goes
which
back
is
to understanding the technology.
yes, correct. So it's a technology, and everyone's tried to hide those basically complexity from the blockchain. Many of our clients came to us and say, we would like to implement a tokenization project, and we would like to hide complexity. But the very powerful strategy should be um, like incentivization through the education. So whenever you educate someone, give them more information, provide them guidance, personalization, and uh, act like a consultant in this sphere. This gives much more powerful opportunities.
Okay. Vadzim, we're nearly at the hour. Are there any final statements or ideas you would like to leave our audience about, technology, software, and, blockchain?
Um, Anyone who is thinking about whether they start learning those domain, I would say, specifically Web2 developers, the one who is still yet programming a simple Web2 application, they at least should educate themselves in this domain, because to my mind, the adoption is uh, changing the landscape very fast. You can see even PayPal launched their crypto wallet recently, and this gives many big names. I'm sure within the couple of months we will see like Elon Musk adopted his X to a new era of cryptocurrency usages, introducing a wallet. You can see Telegram, they introduced the wallets. All those are very new to regular developers. You should start thinking about that. At least you should try to understand how it works. Start from there, and whenever you will have an understanding, this will shorten your personal adoption in this sphere.
My guest today has been Vadzim Belski. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Vadzim.
Thank you. See you guys. Bye bye.